So I come from Scotland. I came from a very working class neighbourhood, went to a public school, and my father was a steel worker. So I grew up with people who did not have many opportunities and was very, very lucky to. I only went to college because my brother went to college. He was the first person we knew in our town who ever went to college. And so for me, I think I have a strong understanding of what it's like to think about how to get opportunities for people who don't grow up thinking even about college or university to begin with. And so for me, one of the most important things for me, especially both back in where I come from, but all around the world, is to say, look, I'm from a background where it was not obvious that I would ever even go to college, never mind become a Nobel laureate. And one of the ways that I like to do that is just to talk to people. For example, in Brazil, I love soccer, I love football. I've been to a number of games already, and I love talking to people about football. And people realize, he's just an ordinary person. He's a normal person. And I think the more and more we can sort of bridge the gap between trying to pretend that scientists are different or special, and we're not. We're just people who love doing what we do as much as anyone else in the world loves doing what they do. So that is the number one thing for me, is to have that discussion with people about why science it's number one, it's like part of who you are, it's part of your curiosity, it's like a hobby, it's something you care about, but you're not someone who's different from other people, you're part of everyone else. And I'll say one other thing real fast. Sometimes people say scientists, especially people who are skeptical about scientists, say that science is elitism, it's for the elite. But it's not. Scientists are working class. We're absolutely working class. We do so much work that we care about and we love doing, but we're doing it for society. And I said something the other day, which is true. We're not at the top of the mountain. We're at the bottom of the mountain, working with everyone else, trying to get everyone else to the top of the mountain. That's what scientists are. And so it really is about democratizing education and democratizing research. The more and more we can get people from other areas to do research or think about doing it with almost no resources, the more and more we teach people to think and to act and to be like scientists. I apologize, that was a very long answer. One of the biggest issues we face with climate change is we have to come up with a solution that will also have an economic benefit. Because if you don't have that economic driving force, people are not going to end up going in that direction. That sounds like a horrible thing to say, but it is absolutely true. And the world is based on capitalism, and that's not going to change. So therefore, there always has to be an economic driver. However, the good news is that most of the ways that people are thinking about overcoming climate change, and I'm very, very optimistic about climate change, is going to be based on ways that will also be economic benefits as well. So I think as time moves on, as we move towards those solutions, we will get there. I think the approaches that science is taking now are really, really good. If you see the amount of work that's going into renewables around the world, it's incredible already, and most people don't know that. So there is this steady progression where things are getting better. It's not where we need it to be completely, but it's getting better already. And as you see more and more and more ideas and more approaches coming online, more people care about it, everyone's talking about it, this is what the world needs. It needs the spotlight, and it needs the motivation of people who care. That is absolutely important, but it is happening right now. And as I just said in my speech, or at least in my interview, we are really just one chemical reaction away from solving climate change. And people are working very hard on that. And it's my belief that we will, as a community, we will get there. Things I would like to see in my lifetime would be the way that science often works is we do things which are based upon what we know already. And we say, oh, well, we know that, so maybe we can try this. Or we know this, so maybe we try that. But sometimes we don't sit back and say, what are the big questions that we're not asking anywhere around the world? We're not asking ourselves, can we do this? Can we do that? What would happen if we did this? We don't have a really systematic way of thinking about the questions we're asking ourselves. We have systematic ways of solutions for questions we think about. Climate change is one of them. But there's all these other things that we don't question that we probably should question. And if we did, we could see big, big changes. I actually do believe, for example, I think AI, machine learning, will have an impact, not on solutions. It will have an impact on solutions, but it will also have an impact on questions. I'll give you an example. If you think, obviously in Brazil, biodiversity is very, very important and not using up natural resources. But if you think about all the natural resources that are available that you can use and are absolutely sustainable, we're not asking ourselves right now, how do we start to combine those types of molecules with each other, for example, to make medicines, to make agriculture, to make these, we're not even doing that. So if we could do things like that, that would have a really seriously beneficial impact on how we treat our planet. But we're not even doing that. So I think what we're going to see in the next 10 to 20 years is ways of more systematically coming up with really good questions about how to make our world better. So in terms of surprises, what's really beautiful about chemistry is sometimes you set out to do one new idea and something else completely different happens and you don't know why. And it might take you a year or 2 years to understand why it happened. But once you do understand why it happened, you suddenly get new insights into the universe, into our world, that you didn't have before. And then you realize these new insights can allow you to invent all these new other chemical reactions. The biggest surprise for me was we were doing, probably 15 years ago, we were doing some experiments with light, using light, and we're shining light into chemical reactions. And we were able to use catalysts with light to switch on new chemistry. It was an amazingly crazy, bizarre outcome. And then once we understood what was really going on, then we could start to take it and use all these new chemical processes. One of the most fantastic things about that is that now, 15 years later, all pharmaceutical companies, all these agrochemical companies, they all use these new chemical reactions using light. They actually use light, and you shine light into these chemical reactions. It's really wonderful. The catalysts absorb a photon. They become the equivalent of 32,000 degrees Celsius, while everything else is at room temperature. And then it selectively is able to use that energy to change the molecules around it, just using simple light. So for us, this was both surprising, but just an amazingly wonderful thing to find. It was a great discovery, but then it opened the door to many other things.